how to make a form. So now let's get started and set up our HTML page. So we need to add in our opening and closing HTML tags and our body tags. Okay. And now to start your form, you need to use the form tag, which is form. And we need to name our form, so after form, put a space, name equals pizza order. For this tutorial, we're going to make a little mini order form for pizzas. I think that's a good way to make a little demo form that should show you all the input types you need to know to start making your own forms for your own web pages. So now what we need to do is we need to probably first get the user's name. So we need to put name. And now we need to have a text box for the user to actually type their name in. So to have a text box, you need to use the input tag, which is input. And for the text box, you use type equals text. And now we need to name this text box. And so I'm going to name this txt name. And I normally name my objects this way. And for example, this is a text box, so I'm going to use txt name. If we're using a checkbox, I'd probably use ck and whatever the user's checking. So that's how I normally name my things, and that just is a neat way of keeping things organized. Also, you should always try to name your objects similar. So like I used all lowercase for this. You can use upper and lowercase, but just remember how you named it, because when you're programming in certain script languages for actually taking data from this form, some of them are case sensitive. So if you don't remember where you put capitals, that could cause some problems in your coding. So there we go. We have our text box for the user to enter their name in. So let's save this and see what this looks like so far. Okay, so you have your name and your little text box here where you could type your name in. So now let's move on to the next thing. And let's add checkboxes for the users to add toppings. So we'll put toppings here. And actually we probably should put a break before toppings. That way it's not on the same line as name. So we'll put a break there, which is the BR tag. And now we have toppings. So for our checkboxes, we'll use the input tag again, but the difference for this is type is going to equal checkbox. And the name of this checkbox is going to be CK cheese. And the user will check this if they want extra cheese. So we'll type after this extra cheese. Okay. So now let's add another checkbox, and this one can be for mushrooms. So we'll have input type equals checkbox, name equals CK mushroom, and after this we'll write mushroom. Okay, so let's save this and see how that looks. So now what we should have is a form where the user can enter their name and select either extra cheese or mushrooms. And there we go. So you can type in your name and you can click on the extra cheese, or you can click on mushrooms, or you can click on both of them. So that way you can select what toppings you want. Okay, so now we need to add radio buttons. That way the user can select what size of a pizza they want. So now to do that, we're first going to put a break, of course. That way the size will be on the next line. And we should type size here. And now after that, we type input again, but this time type equals radio for the radio buttons. And name equals RD size. And now a thing I need to tell you about radio buttons is all of them should have the same name, because when you're calling this from your whatever script you're using, whether it be JavaScript or VB script, it's going to look at RD size and see which one is checked and pull the value from that. So we also need to add value to this. And our first one is going to be small. So if the user clicks on this radio button, that's going to be for a small pizza. So after this, we'll type small. Okay, so now we're going to add in a radio button for a medium pizza. So we use input, type equals radio, name equals RD size again, value equals medium. And after this, we'll type medium. And now we need to add one more radio button for the large pizza. So input, type equals radio, name equals RD size again, value equals large. And now we'll type large. Okay, so let's save this and load this up and see what we have in our web browser. And there you can see we have the 3 radio buttons, and you can only select one at a time. So if large is checked and you click on medium, it automatically takes it away from large, because that's the only way you can do a pizza. You don't want them checking both small and medium for one pizza. So you can only select one size at a time, which is what we need for a form like this. Okay, so now let's go back and let's add a select box for the user to select whether they're going to eat this pizza in our store or if they're going to carry this out and take it home. So we'll add a break to put this on the next line, and we'll write for where. Okay, and now we need to do our select box. So instead of using an input tag for this, we're using a select tag. So we select name equals SL location, because it's going to tell us the location where the user is going to eat their pizza. Okay, and so we're going to add 2 things to this. We're going to add in store and take home. And now to add stuff into our select box, we need to use another tag called option. So let's go to the next line here and use the option tag. And let's type take home. And in the next line, we'll add another option tag. And on this one, we'll put in store. Okay, and now that that's done, we'll go to the next line again, just to keep everything nice and neat, and we'll end our select tag. This one needs an end tag. The inputs don't. Okay, so we can save this, and let's load this up in our web browser and see how this looks so far. Okay, so there you can see we have our select box, and we can select either take home or in store, which is just what we wanted. Okay, so let's add another thing to this. Let's add a comment box for the user to type comments in. So we'll put a break to go to the next line, and we'll type comments. And a text box might not be big enough for comments. So what we need to use is a text area, and to use a text area, we use the text area tag. So what we'll do is we'll put the text area below comments, so we'll put that on a different line. So we'll just put a break after comments. And now to set up a text area, what we need to do is use the text area tag. And then we use name, which this one's going to equal comments. And then we need to write how many rows and columns we want this box to be. So let's set up 40 columns and let's set rows to 8. Okay, so that's how you do that. So you can adjust the size of your text area however you want by changing the numbers for columns and rows. And now we need to add an end text area tag. Just like that. Okay, so let's save this and see how this looks now in our web browser. And there we can see that we have a little text area here. So we can, here are my comments. So we can type in there and the text goes into that box there. Okay, but now we need to add some buttons. We need to add a submit and we need to add a reset. So let's go back and let's add those in. Okay. So now let's add a break so our buttons will be on the next line down. And let's put in our submit button. And to add that, we need to use input again, type equals submit. Value, which is what the user is going to see on the button, we're going to set this to send order. And then we just close that tag. Now let's add in our other button that's going to reset the form. And this one's a little bit different from that. This one is the input tag again, but this time type is going to equal reset. And the value is going to equal clear form. And again, the value is what the user is going to see. So now that we have our two buttons in there, let's end our form by putting the closing tag for the form. And let's save this. And now let's go to our web browser and see how this all looks. So we'll refresh, okay, and now we can see our send order button and our clear form button. So now let's see if our clear form button works. So we'll type in my name and I want extra cheese. And I just want a medium pizza and I'm going to take it home. And I'm just going to write, here are my comments again. That way we have something in there. And now let's hit clear form and see what happens. Okay, clears it all out. So that way you can reset it. And now the send order button isn't going to work because we don't have it going anywhere. For that button to work, we would have to either write a JavaScript or a VB script or some sort of script in some sort of scripting language so that it will actually pull data out of our form and present something to the user, which we're not going to get into this tutorial. This tutorial is just covering how to set up a form like this. So let's go back and let's review the code quickly. And I'll zoom out here. So just to refresh, if you're going to add a text box, you use type equals text. If you're going to add a checkbox, the type equals checkbox. And remember that for radio buttons, the type equals radio, and that the name for all of your radio buttons needs to be identical. So as you can see, for the small, medium, and large pizzas, the name all equals RD size. Remember that if you're using a select box, you need to add options. If you take the option tag out before these two things, there's going to be nothing in your select box. So it's important to remember these option tags. It's also important to remember to close your select box. Remember, for comments, you have to use the text area tag. Or for any large area where the user is going to enter a lot of text, a text area also might be handy if you're using asking the user to input a shipping or billing address. Things like that are good to have a text area box, or if you want the user to enter in a lot of text. Text area is what you want to do. The text boxes are more for one word or one line entries. Remember that for a button to reset your form, you want to use type equals reset. And you don't have to put any code in for that. If the type equals reset and the user clicks on that, it's going to automatically clear the form. It's also important to remember, if you're making a form, to remember your opening and closing form tags. And it's also important to remember to name your form. So thank you very much for watching my tutorial. I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial. And if you want to learn how to write the scripts to take data from this form and present something to the user or do something with the information that's entered, you should watch my tutorials on JavaScript or VB script that are on nathaniel.com. So thank you very much, and I hope you watch my future tutorials.